You can't be emergency 911.
There's a man who is sleeping in my backyard. He's running. I think he has a gun in his back pocket. I don't know who the hell he is, and I don't want him by my house.
Sounded like gunshot over here.
A cell phone video captures police and ambulances rushing to the scene.
He was last seen driving westbound on Mount Vernon, so we did notify surrounding agencies.
The last thing you think about is dropping off your child at school and something like this happens.
It's very, 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 very scary.
There was a lot of blood everywhere.
Just shocked that it happened here at a school.
A riveting trial taking place in Atlanta.
One of the strangest trials Atlanta and perhaps the nation has ever seen.
Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Yes, it's great.
This guy's bizarre. This twisted little man. It's these imaginary beings. I see dead people. They're telling me to kill people.
His story of the angels and demons who appeared to him.
We laughed.
Sounding like Barry White.
It's more than love.
And Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Anyone who looks up the definition of evil would see nothing more than a photograph of Andrea Snyder.
Did they tell you or indicate to you Rusty was in fact dead?
Yep.
Okay, is that the first time you found out he was dead?
Yep.
And you found out he was shot?
Yep.
You may recall she was booted from this courthouse.
That was a bombshell. That was a bombshell.
Today I want to talk about a ridiculous, outrageous, absurd case. This case is known as the Dunwoody Daycare murder because it happened at a daycare. At the time when the trial for this case was going on, it was very sensational. First of all, there were very scandalous details. And then on top of that, the courtroom antics. Oh my God.
This guy's bizarre. This twisted little man. The defendant, ladies and gentlemen, is serving up an insanity sandwich. And he's serving it with a side of French fried lies.
Andrea Snyderman is an adulterer and a tease.
They're groping and they're grinding and they're getting it on. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Yes, it's great.
There are also a lot of theories in this case about who actually was involved, who knew what, when they knew it. And so I want to do what I usually do on my channel, which is I want to give you guys the facts. Then we'll discuss the theories and then you can decide for yourself. So the whole thing started on November 18th, 2010. In a wealthy suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. Rusty Snyderman was dropping his 2-year-old son off at the Dunwoody Daycare Center. After dropping his son off, he was in the parking lot walking towards his car. And all of a sudden, this man approaches the daycare parking lot and immediately starts shooting Rusty. He shoots him 3 times. And then he takes the gun, puts it directly against Rusty's neck and shoots him again. No words were exchanged. The shooter gets in a silver minivan and he drives off really fast. The person was described as wearing a hoodie and having a beard, but they could tell the beard was fake. The scene was super chaotic at the time because people are trying to save Rusty's life. They're trying to understand what happened. And at the same time, the daycare, they call Rusty's wife, Andrea, and they don't tell her what happened, just that something happened with Rusty, her husband, and to please come as soon as possible. So this is a really crucial detail in the case because there are some inconsistencies here depending on who you talk to, because Andrea, the wife, she said, they didn't tell me what happened to Rusty.
Did you get a phone call from the daycare?
Yeah.
What did they tell you?
They really didn't tell me anything. They said there has been an accident.
Did they at any time tell you what had happened to Rusty?
Nope.
You remember who you talked to?
Yep, I talked to Rusty's dad. I said, something's happened to Rusty. I have no idea what, and that's all I said, and I was belligerent on the phone.
At that time, did you know what had happened to Rusty?
No. I didn't know what happened to Rusty until I got to the emergency room.
Okay.
No one told me what happened to Rusty.
But Rusty's father, he says that Andrea called him on her way to the daycare and said to him that Rusty's been shot.
State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Donald Snyderman.
How do you know Rusty Snyder?
He is my son. Andrea called us, and she called and said Rusty had been shot. And she was so sorry. and that she was going to Dunwoody Prep to find out what had happened.
The issue here is if she didn't know what happened to him and the school didn't tell her, how did she know that he was shot? She also calls her boss several times, like 5 times, but he doesn't answer.
I tried to call Hemi probably to tell him I had left the office and that something had happened, which was a very normal thing for me to have done.
But she never actually calls Rusty to see what's going on.
How many times did you call Rusty?
Call Rusty?
Rusty.
0 times.
Why didn't you call Rusty?
Because they just told me something had happened to Rusty. What are the chances that he's going to be answering his cell phone?
They didn't tell you what happened to Rusty.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, why did you call Rusty?
Because I was beside myself.
Yes, ma'am.
No time to call Rusty in there.
Yes, ma'am.
In any case, Andrea arrives at the daycare and she says that she was hysterical, that she fell out of the car.
Pulled up in my vehicle to caution tape and police cars and Rusty's car, but no Rusty. I fell out of the vehicle. I was picked up by I don't know who.
Witnesses say that she drove in really fast and flung open the door and was like, what's happening? What's happening? And that she was in their words, pretending to be hysterical because they said she didn't really have any tears.
I said it's really weird, but she didn't have a tear in her eye. And I told one of the detectives that as well.
And you thought that was unusual?
I was bawling.
According to Andrea, the daycare did not tell her what happened to Rusty, just that she needs to go to the hospital. So now she's driving from the daycare to the hospital. She left her son at the daycare and she makes another phone call.
Screaming to me that Rusty had been shot.
2 people are saying that before she ever got to the hospital, she said Rusty was shot. Andrea gets to the hospital and she claims that this is when they told her what happened to Rusty. She said they took her to the death room.
They took me into what I call the death room.
Okay, so they told you...
I sat in a chair and someone I have no idea who they are came over and said that he came in with multiple gunshot wounds and that he was dead.
Okay, so
I fell to the floor.
You found out at the hospital that Rusty had been shot?
That's correct.
Okay, did they tell you or indicate to you Rusty was in fact dead?
Yep.
Okay, is that the first time you found out he was dead?
Yep.
And you found out he was shot?
Yep.
According to the doctor who was treating Rusty, he said that her reaction was really odd. So the doctor said she was, quote, not emotional, not crying, screaming, or wanting to know what happened. Her first request was for a child psychologist to inform her children of his passing. I've never had that question before, and I'm used to talking to people whose family members have expired all the time. Okay, so now it's time for the investigation, and police at first, all they really had was the silver minivan and the description of the shooter. So when police interview Andrea at first, she doesn't really give them anything useful. They spoke to her friends, and her friends told police, by the way, her boss has been hitting on her. Police go back to Andrea and they say, is there anyone who's shown any romantic interest in you or anything like that? And she goes, oh, yeah. My boss, Hemi Newman. So turns out Hemi Newman works for General Electric and he is Andrea's supervisor. Police bring Hemi in for questioning. This audio is really shitty, but there are subtitles.
You okay? You all right? It's unnerving.
And then they start asking him about his marriage and he tells them that it's actually not going well. He tells them, I'm broke.
I'm broke. I owe like $170,000. That's just because of your separation. No, we're broke. Again, I owe money. I've been positive. It's great.
So apparently, he was living well beyond his means. He had a lot of debt.
We're not only broke, but I think I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy or we have to foreclose on the house. We're in debt about $40,000 to $50,000. We owe $450,000 on the house. Plus, I have $70,000. $7,000 credit card.
By the way, also, fun fact, Andrea got a $2 million life insurance policy when Rusty died. The officers start reading Hemi his Miranda rights.
All right. Listen, I'm going to talk to you about the day of the shooting, but I need you to write your Miranda rights.
He freaks out. He doesn't want to keep talking. He's like, why are you reading me the Miranda rights? Like, do you think I'm guilty of something?
Do I have to worry? I don't think so. You haven't sent me a lawyer. Do you need a lawyer? I don't know. You read Miranda rights, and it seems like it's as if I'm a suspect.
The cops really are like, what are you hiding? Like, you're shaking. Like, what's your problem?
You shaking, you stirring, you twisting.
He says he needs to go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom and he comes back and he signs the paper saying that he's waiving his Miranda rights, and he talks.
You were there when Rusty got shot. Now, Hemi, you were there. You got it, man. The jig is up. You're our guy. I don't see how you can place me there. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not there. I don't own a gun. I can't explain the ban. You're going to tell us on stack bottles, I did not shoot Rusty. I was not there. I did not pull the trigger on the gun that shot Rusty's side. She's going on these trips with you. She's a very attractive woman. She's looking pretty. And you got to feel bad about that. Jealousy gets in the heart, though. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Jealousy gets in the heart.
They end up basically connecting the silver minivan to Hemi Newman, because Hemi Newman rented the silver minivan before the shooting, and that was the one that was used by the person who shot Rusty. And they find the person who Hemi purchased the gun from, and what he said didn't make Hemi look good.
What he told me, that he just needed a gun for just home defense.
De Silva says Newman contacted him again a month later.
He told me that there was a problem with the gun, that he had to get rid of it. He just said to me, like, don't ever have a mistress.
They arrest Hemi for Rusty's murder.
Police announced they'd arrested Rusty's killer, Hemi Newman, a 48-year-old East Cobb father of 3 with no criminal history. Newman worked with Rusty Steinerman's widow, Andrea.
Do you have anything to say to Andrea?
Our camera was there the very next day as police led Newman to his arraignment. February 8, 2011, a DeKalb County grand jury indicted Newman on charges of malice murder.
Once he gets arrested for murder, his wife divorces him, and she claims in the divorce that he's been having an affair with a woman that he works with. And so now everyone's like, is it Andrea Snyderman, Rusty's wife? Like, did he kill Rusty because he was having an affair with Rusty's wife? What does Rusty's wife know about this? Well, there's a $2 million insurance policy. He's broke. Like, did they do this to get the money? But then when the trial begins, in opening statements, everyone is shocked because this is the first time they're hearing Hemi's defense, which is that, yes, I did shoot Rusty, but he's not guilty of murder because he's legally insane. The defense is basically saying Hemi Newman has mental illness and he's had a really rough childhood. His family were in Auschwitz, and his mom was like an absentee mom, and he was like sent to boarding school, and then there was like nobody to pick him up, and he has like all these delusions. And this is when they talk about the Barry White demon and the Olivia Newton-John angel. Hemi Newman claims that there was a dark demon who looked like Barry White, the singer.
That's what you are.
This demon told him to kill himself, but he didn't do that. But then there was an angel, and she sounded like Olivia Newton-John. And the angel told him, kill Rusty. You have to kill Rusty because Rusty's kids are actually your kids and you need to protect them. They were also really trying to make Andrea look bad by saying that Andrea manipulated him with this affair, that she knew he was mentally ill. He is not guilty by reason of insanity. That's what they were saying.
He has a delusional disorder.
The prosecution obviously were disagreeing with that.
Wham, wham, wham. We should all have it so bad. I got smacked with a belt every now and then. Wham, wham, wham. And that makes him guilty, that makes him guilty, that makes him guilty all day, every day.
The prosecution's star witness was Andrea, Rusty's wife, and she testified against her attorney's wishes. Right before she was about to testify, her attorney files this emergency motion.
Yes, sir. You are not a party to this action, so out of a courtesy, I'm going to give you permission to approach this podium and tell me what you want to tell me.
Thank you very much for this indulgence, Your Honor. I filed this emergency motion during the break. While I'm not a party to these proceedings, I represent Andrea Snyderman. The state has informed me that she will be the first witness called. Mr. Peters made it clear in his opening statement that he plans to put Andrea Snyderman basically on trial and shift the blame. The way he's going to do it, Your Honor, is to completely focus on the more salacious aspects of this case. And so we're asking not only to protect society, to protect Ms. Snyderman, but also to protect her children. We're asking for her testimony not to be televised under that act.
That doesn't work, and Andrea takes the stand.
Bring in my jury, please. Call your first witness.
Yes, sir. State calls Andrea Snyderman, Judge.
Spell your name for the record.
Andrea Snyderman.
And it did not go well for her at all.
Did the defendant ever express his feelings for you?
Yes, he pulled out his phone and read a poem. The poem insinuated that he thought I was beautiful, and none of those feelings were ever returned.
Do you have any idea why the defendant would have these feelings toward you?
I think I'm a pretty nice person. I'm a very caring person.
Did you ever tell Rusty about the poem or the defendant's feelings towards you? Do you remember during that dinner sharing a bottle of wine?
I think almost every time I sat down to a business dinner, I had a bottle of wine. Oh, shared a bottle of wine. Yes, I remember because we joked that the wine was named what's written on here.
It is a unique name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Is that supposed to be the name of the wine? Ma'am, is that the name of the wine?
It is. It is.
Yes,
What is
Judge.
that?
Called pitch, Judge. What does that say?
Where it talks about chocolates and flowers that they were supposed to leave in my room. I don't remember receiving this email.
Do you remember your response on the very bottom?
No.
So thoughtful and sweet. I knew you might try something like this.
I don't remember responding that, no.
Is that your email?
It's my email address.
And is that the defendant's email?
It is. Yeah, well, I just really didn't think it was a very big deal.
Were you and the defendant romantically involved?
No.
But you still used the word romantic?
He used the word romantic.
No, ma'am.
And I responded with the same verbiage. I never met the defendant at a hotel in Atlanta. Oh yeah, I was in training at the Renaissance Galleria. And so, yes, but the way you're stating it is incorrect. I was at that hotel for training.
Okay.
During the day.
I shouldn't have come over. You are so beautiful, such a great person. And how did you respond?
I know, but so do other people. I betrayed them all. I'm not sure how to deal with that for now, but my burden, not yours.
What happened in Greenville, man?
We were holding each other's hands, and that's it. It may sound worse than it is, but to me, that was a betrayal.
This is marry me.
Yep. I viewed it very much as a silly boy email. He doesn't say that we woke up together. Okay, you added that.
When we woke up
On Friday morning in Denver. Yeah, that's what he said.
Do you remember the Pulse restaurant?
It is a dance club, not a restaurant.
Okay. And what did you do there?
We had some drinks at the bar, maybe one. I'm a trained dancer. I've been taking dance lessons since I was 5. I got onto the dance floor myself, as I explained. I've been a trained dancer for some time. There was a time where he reached out his hand and as the defense has said, twirled me around.
Did you kiss him or did he kiss you?
No. No. I'm a pretty wholesome individual, so.
This is a gentleman who has bothered you with "I love you" and "marry me." And it's a fantastic idea to go with him to a dance club in England.
If that's how you're reading the email, I suppose that's.
Then tell me how to read it. I just know English.
I don't really know how to respond to that. Excuse me.
Ma'am, do you need a minute?
I'm fine.
All right, answer the question.
I was in Florida. I got a weird email from iTunes.
And that's not my question. In your room.
Yeah, he did not share a room with me. Was he in my room? He might have been. And didn't Tammy Parker tell you that she thought the whole idea was ludicrous?
I don't care what Tammy Parker said.
Oh, okay. Oh, they were recording me in my home.
Yes, ma'am.
That's fantastic.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
That's what it says.
Okay. So you were going to confront him.
Yep. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a nice person. Be a normal guy. Be my boss. And he murdered my husband.
All right, you may proceed with cross-examination.
Why were you protecting the defendant?
I was not.
Why didn't you mention his name?
Have you seen what's happened to my life?
Have you seen what's happened to Rusty?
Have you noticed what's happened to my life since Hemi was murdered? Since Hemi murdered my husband?
People did not believe that she was not having an affair with Hemi. They did not find her to be like this grieving widow at all. They found her to be angry and cold and calculating. They start talking about this incident that happened where Hemi had come to Rusty and Andrea's home and Andrea wasn't there.
There was a bizarre connection between the affair and an event that happened just days before he was murdered.
Rusty was there with his son and he was about to put him in the car and they were going somewhere when he smelled gas. And then when he went towards like where that would be, he found Rusty lying down between two air conditioning vents, like on the outside of the home, and confronted him, and that person ran away. They had a gun. Rusty calls 911.
You can't be emergency 911.
There's a man who is sleeping in my backyard. He's running. I think he has a gun in his back pocket, and now he's running away. I don't know who the hell he is, and I don't want him by my house. I know, but I didn't get your water bottle. I'm sorry.
Hemi ran across the lawn over to a place that only someone who had been stalking my house for months would have known existed.
Tell him about that.
Someone could tell him?
How else would he find out?
He had been stalking my house for months.
Any idea why you would immediately call the defendant after talking to Rusty?
I'm sure it was, no. I'm sure it was work related. It does seem coincidental.
It gets to a point where they try to get her out. Like they're like, she should not be here. And she's like, what? I shouldn't be here? I shouldn't be here?
Your Honor, we would ask that she be sequestered like every other witness.
I will grant that request at this time.
I'm sorry, I have to stay outside the courtroom?
Mrs. Snyderman, 1 second. Mrs. Snyderman, yes, at this point in time, you're going to remain under subpoena, and yes, ma'am, you're going to remain outside of the courtroom. You may come down.
I have to leave the courtroom for the rest of the trial?
Mrs. Snyderman, I'm going to say it as clear as I can. You're going to come off that witness stand, and you're going to remain outside.
They get her removed. The lawyers ask for her to come back, that this is her right.
She has a statutory right to be in the courtroom anytime the defendant is in the courtroom. The state respectfully requests her to be permitted back in the courtroom.
Your Honor, we would object to Ms. Snyderman being present in the courtroom during the testimony of other witnesses in this case.
In light of the position that the state is taking at this point in time, I will allow Ms. Snyderman to return if she wishes.
So then they bring her back. It's this whole drama. And then she ends up getting kicked out for good because her friend who testified and basically contradicted what Andrea said.
Shayna Citron. Andrea and I have been good friends for 9 or 10 years.
Did Andrea Snyderman ever state to you that she liked the attention she was getting from her boss?
Andrea's yes.
When she told you no, did you believe her?
No, but my heart really wanted to believe her.
But you didn't believe her.
after her friend finishes testifying and she's walking down, the investigator told her not to go towards her friend and that she pushed the investigator away, hugged and kissed the witness in front of the jury. But then when they went into the hallway, she told her friend, since you don't believe me, then you're not my friend anymore. And then afterwards, she tried to go into the witness room, and other witnesses from General Electric said that they didn't want her around when they testified. So she ends up getting kicked out of the courtroom for inappropriate contact with witness. They bring in witnesses, a lot of different witnesses.
I was working at Pulse. They were groping each other. I know because I kind of turned away.
Did you see the parties kiss?
Yes, I did.
How many times did they kiss?
I would say about 3 times. And one occasion, she actually kissed him.
I'm a realtor. I sold he and his family a home in May 2006.
What did he tell you about the London trip?
That they kissed and they fondled each other, and then she got up and went into the bathroom. He told me that she went into the bathroom to, quote, finish herself off.
Finish herself off?
Yes. What he told me was that she gave in.
She gave in?
I believed he meant that they had intercourse.
And so it becomes now up to the jury to decide.
We, the jury, find the defendant as to count 1, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill.
I'm so sorry for their loss.
What gets me is that the jury seemed to buy the idea that this guy was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
The only crazy thing about Hemi Newman is the fact that it took him 9 months to come up with this crazy defense about demons and Barry White and everything like that.
Hemi ends up getting life without parole. He's not, though, at a mental institution. He's at a prison, but he's getting treatment there. A couple months after his verdict, Andrea sues not only Hemi Newman, she sues him for wrongful death, but she also sues her brother-in-law, Rusty's brother, the victim's brother. She sues him for defamation because he's been saying that he believes that she was in on it. So while Andrea is suing people, what she doesn't know is that the prosecution is building a case against her. A few months after she filed those lawsuits, she gets arrested and they charge her with murder and a bunch of other charges. It was malice murder, attempted murder, racketeering, insurance fraud, 2 counts of perjury, and 2 counts of making false statements. In the indictment, they wrote that Hemi Newman and Andrea Snyderman conspired together to murder Rusty Snyderman so that they could enjoy a life together, eliminate Newman's debt problems, and fully benefit from the assets the Snydermans had acquired, as well as the proceeds of Rusty Snyderman's life insurance policy. And then, okay, you want to talk about drama? While Andrea was in jail, awaiting trial, a new twist. Okay, what? Another lover and someone who may have been involved in the whole plot. So this guy's name is Joseph Dell.
Cameras captured a man named Joseph Dell escorting Andrea Snyderman from the DeKalb County Courthouse during the trial of her former boss, Hemi Newman. Andrea Snyderman's attorneys maintain Dell is a close family friend. In court Friday, DeKalb Chief Assistant Prosecutor Don Geary revealed investigators are honing in on Snyderman and Dell's past, specifically their relationship in the months leading up to Rusty's murder.
We believe it credible that Mr. Dell left his wife 6 months pregnant about 6.5 months after the murder of Rusty, and at that time openly took up a relationship with the defendant.
Geary says investigators have a new theory about why they believe Andrea Snyderman put Hemi Newman up to killing her husband.
And evidence is starting to come up that might show that it was not for Mr. Newman to be with the defendant, but for someone else. Mr. Dell might be that someone else.
Joseph was a family friend of Rusty and Andrea, but allegedly, people are saying that they actually had an intimate relationship before Hemi Newman killed Rusty. Was she having an affair with like 2 different people? Prosecution said that while Andrea was in jail, Joseph called her and told her he loved her, and it was clear that they had a romantic relationship, and they were planning on having him become a witness, like they wanted him to testify for them against Andrea. The twists and turns keep coming because the night before jury selection was set to begin for Andrea's trial, the prosecution drops the murder charges. They keep the other ones, the perjury and the false statements and all that, but they dropped the murder charges. It was now time for Andrea's trial, and this time she didn't take the stand because that didn't go well for her before. So then it was time for the jury to deliberate on Andrea's case, and they come back.
Hindering the apprehension of a criminal, guilty. Concealment of material facts, guilty. Count 3, false statement, guilty. Perjury, guilty. False statement, guilty.
So then it was time for the sentencing.
Andrea Snyderman, ANDREA SNEIDERMAN.
Now, at this point in time, you're more than welcome to make a statement. You don't have to make a statement. Would you like to make a statement to me at this point in time?
I would. Your Honor, I'm here to ask for your leniency. I'm going to try to find the words to describe what it's been like. At first, I thought my boss, Mr. Newman, was a nice guy. One of my greatest regrets will always be allowing this predator into my life. I thought I could handle him. I didn't know this mild-mannered business executive was capable of killing anyone. I am shamed by and apologize for my emails, but I want to be clear. There was no physical romance between Mr. Newman and me. No sex, no kissing, nothing, other than putting my head on his shoulder to cry and holding his hand on one occasion to comfort him. When Mr. Newman killed Resney, I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. My life was misery, and I ignored all the people who told me not to testify. I was shocked when the prosecution began attacking me. I'm embarrassed when I watch the tape of my testimony. Please let me go home to my kids. Please don't make them live without their mother. Thank you.
Thank you.
The judge ends up giving Andrea several 5-year sentences, but he has them run concurrently, not consecutively, which means that she had already been on house arrest for a year, and so she only was supposed to do 4 years. And then she'd be on probation, and because they put a special thing saying she was a first-time offender, so if she managed to complete her sentence and go through probation with no problem, it would all be removed from her record. She ends up only serving 10 months though, and she gets out early, and I heard she changed her name, and she's pretty much free and kind of flying under the radar, and that's what happened to Andrea. As for Hemi Newman, he is filing appeal after appeal after appeal. He got his case overturned, but they said he needed to be retried. He was found guilty again in his second trial, but this time they did not find him legally insane, and he ends up getting life without parole. He files another appeal, and this time it doesn't work, and I think he reached the end of his appeals, and that's it. Those are the facts. Now, okay, let's talk about the theories. So there's really basically 2 theories. One is Hemi Newman did this on his own, and Andrea had nothing to do with it. Or the other theory is that Andrea had something to do with it. At the very least, maybe she knew it was happening and she didn't stop it, or she was involved in the planning of it and was able to facilitate it by telling by telling Hemi, where Rusty would be and what time he would be there, with the incident of when Rusty confronted Hemi outside of his home and called 911. And the prosecution alluded to the fact that Andrea helped Hemi catch Rusty unaware. Sorry, I'm talking slow because I'm getting the names confused. Also, regarding the whole Hemi Newman being crazy thing, that one is also up for debate because one jury found him to be crazy, another one didn't. It's weird because nobody noticed that anything was wrong with him, and he was working a high-level job with a bunch of people, and he was able to function and plan. I mean, he went to the gun safety course, he went to the gun range, he did target practice. Like, he was preparing very methodically for this murder, and also how to escape, how to not be detected, a cover story. It seems like if someone went crazy and thought a demon was telling him to do this and he was doing a good thing, he wouldn't be covering his tracks and planning so meticulously. As for Andrea, though, like, the thing is, a lot of people think Andrea got away with murder, and they think she conspired with Hemi because she knew that Rusty was shot before anyone else did or before she was told. She called Hemi several times the day of the shooting after she found out something horrible happened to her husband and she's driving on the way there. She never calls her husband. She calls Hemi several times. My first instinct, if anyone that I know something bad happened to them, I would try their phone. Who knows? Maybe they can pick up. Maybe someone's there who can pick up and tell me. I'm trying to figure out some information as I get there. That drive is probably feels like forever, and I'm trying to do what I can in that moment to understand the situation. So I would for sure call the person who seems to be in danger, but she found it to be so ridiculous, and she got all upset at the prosecutor for asking her, why don't you call your husband? And then with the whole Joseph thing, the other guy, was he involved? Was this all part of the plan? I was like, oh my God, a scandalo, because could it be that she was playing this guy and that guy and her husband? And in the end, she got all the money. If you want my personal opinion, I think Andrea was definitely having an affair with her boss. I think she also did not want to get a divorce. Now, how involved was she in the killing? That I don't know. I mean, was she masterminding it and like telling him what to do, helping him? Was she just hinting at it? Did she maybe get told what happened after? Did he threaten he was gonna do that? And I'm like, I'm gonna kill your husband and we'll finally be able to be together. And, like, I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. What do you think Andrea's involvement is in the whole thing? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.